Hello and welcome to Toasty's 2 Cents, the series where I play games off camera and then review them in a short video. Well, I always say short video and then it turns out to be like 20 minutes long, so I should really stop saying that. But anyways, we're here to talk about Ghostwire Tokyo. This is a game that people don't really talk about anymore. I think it might have been at least a little popular when it released, whenever the hell it came out. It was a long time ago. I basically got this game for Christmas because it sounded cool, and then I just kind of didn't play it for a whole year and a half. Or however long it took. It took a long time to play it, is what I'm saying, but I finally got around to it. Also, rest in peace, Tango Gameworks, the developers behind this game. If you haven't heard, Xbox decided to take them out behind the barn and put them down, and yeah, they were pretty solid studio. They came out with Hi-Fi Rush, and that was huge. So it's kind of disappointing to see them go. But yeah, anyways, we're going to get into the pros and cons of this random game and see if it's underrated, because I feel like, I don't know, people don't talk about it. I don't hear about this game at all. Alright, starting off with the pros. The character design for the main villain is just fucking epic. I mean, just look at that fucking guy. I'm gonna put an image on the screen just so you can bask in his glory. Oh my god, he's so cool. Like, I think his name was what? Like, Hanya, I think, because of the mask he's wearing. I'm pretty sure that's what we called it. It's been a while since I played this game. It's been like at least a month, I'm not gonna lie to you. It took me way too long to record this. He's just cool. I think the character design and stuff overall was pretty good, but especially this guy, he looks like a villain. He looks badass. And honestly, like, expanding upon that, like, a lot of the bosses and shit, all like the enemies and stuff, I think the design on those characters and stuff was really cool. I think they did a great job with that, like the graphics and everything. It was really well done. I think the biggest draw this game has is like the graphics and the visuals. They put like this weird like grainy effect on like the game, and you can actually turn it off in settings if for some reason you hate it, but I don't know why you'd want to, because I think it really adds something to like the aesthetic of this game. Like the grainy like filter effect looking thing, and just like the visuals and stuff, like the shaders and all that, it's just beautiful. I think that the whole design surrounding this and the whole like atmosphere they set with this world is just really like, it's almost bone chilling. It's a really interesting concept for like a game and like a storyline, a world to like set this game in. I thought they did a really good job with like doing that, and the graphics are just beautiful. There's so many scenes in this game where I was just like, wow, like I was just fucking awestruck, because like it just looks pretty. As far as like visuals go, this is one of the best games I've played in a long time. So I want to talk about the abilities that the player has. It's, I think, wind, fire, water. They don't call them that, but that's what they mean. And they kind of do different things. I think that was a pretty good way of doing it. You have one that's like less ammo but strong. You have one that's like weaker but fast. And then you have one that's like wide range. Like, no, it's like, it's short ranged but wide. And it's a bit strong, kind of like that. They kind of did a good job of making them different. It's pretty standard, to be completely honest. I mean, if you think about it, like the way those three abilities work, like the ranged abilities, it's not different at all from like what you'd find in any other game, really. It's not unique, but the way they kind of like made it work with the theming, I think was cool. Like, my favorite is, like, the wind one, the green one. He kind of does this, like, Satoru Gojo pose where he, like, crosses his fingers or does that with his two fingers and, like, swipes around and shit. That's pretty cool. He's kind of basically just using finger guns is the way I like to think about it. He's just doing finger guns to attack enemies. So, I think, like, from a theming standpoint and the graphics, I think they did a good job of, like, making, like, the magic and stuff he does look cool, even if, at its core, it's not really unique. It's basically, you could put a gun in his hand and it'd do the same thing. It's a similar concept, you know, with like the ranged weapon. But I think the theming, it ties back into the theming. I think it's really cool. You know, the mechanics themselves aren't very unique, but the way they kind of applied the mechanics with the theming of the game is cool, and I like it. All right, another random thing. They have like this system where they use like the fog, like the dangerous spooky fog, and if you go in it, you'll die or some shit. That was their tactic that they used to kind of keep you from going places you weren't supposed to yet. And I thought that, again, from a theming standpoint, that was just a really cool thing. You work to clear the fog, and then you can advance further, but if you go into the fog early, then you die because you're not supposed to go there. I don't know. I think it's an interesting way of doing it. I think the theming of this game was really well done, like setting the whole storyline and like the environment for this game. It was phenomenal. I really liked it. So there was a series of quests in the middle school in like the corner of the map. I think it was just 2 quests, but It was centered around the story of Hanako-san, which is like this really cool legend in Japan. You should look into it if you haven't heard about it, because it's actually really interesting. If you're familiar with the anime Toilet Bound Hanako-kun, that's kind of what it's based off of, is Hanako-san. I think that they might have been add-on quests, like in a DLC or something, that weren't originally part of the game. Like, they added them in an update, because I know an update happened, so I think these quests might have gotten added later. They were kind of like off on their own. They didn't really have much to do with the main story, so I think that might have been what happened, but I'm not 100% sure on that, whether they were there from the beginning or not. But I thought those two quests were like the best in the game. I actually thought that was really cool, like the whole storyline with Hanako-san and like exploring the haunted middle school and like the jump scares and shit. It was like a horror game is what it turned into. This game is like a thriller at best, but in those two Hanako quests, that shit was scary as hell. I definitely screamed a couple times, like jumped up in my seat. It was really good. I mean, I'm a horror fan, so I don't know, maybe I'm biased on that one, but I really, really liked it. I thought those quests were really, really fucking fun. Even if they had nothing to do with the main story, I thought they were very worthwhile. So I just want to throw that out there for anyone who's like not a completionist and isn't going to play every side quest. The two Hanako quests in the middle school, those ones are really fun. Still, it's fun. It's just scary. I really liked it. And I think it's like the best quests in the game, period. Main quests, side quests, I thought those were the most fun. Why is my fan off, bro? I'm sweating dicks right now. Jesus. Sorry, I had to turn my fan on. I was actually melting over here. It's summertime, dude. You gotta stay cool. Hydrate or dihydrate is what I say. Alright, I have one more compliment to give this game before we get into the cons, is the Spider's Thread game mode. I'm pretty sure this was added on after. So it's basically like you run through 30 levels, and if you die once, then you start over from the beginning, and you slowly but surely upgrade your stats and all that to help you progress further and further until you beat it. That was a fun game mode that I almost skipped completely. And the only reason I played it was because I couldn't play a different game after beating the main story because I ran out of storage on my computer and I had to wait for a new storage drive to show up in the mail before I could install my other game. So I had no choice but to keep playing Ghostwire Tokyo. So I was like, I might as well check out Spider's Thread. And it turned out to be really fun, and I actually just wanted to fucking beat it because it was really good. I thought it was really enjoyable. It wasn't too much of a time investment. I think it was like 10-15 hours or something. It's actually the game mode that I'm playing through right now on the screen here. It's pretty fun. I basically just grinded until I got the iron beads, and then the iron beads one-shot every enemy, but if they hit you once, you die. So it's kind of, intense, but that's the best way of doing it, is just saving up for iron beads. Once you get iron beads, it's kind of overpowered, to be honest, but if you fuck up and let someone touch you, then you're kaput, you're 6 feet under. But it was a really fun game mode that I almost missed. And I'm glad I didn't, because I would have really enjoyed it. Or I did enjoy it. I don't know why I said that. I did play it. I did like it. Okay, my words are getting jumbled. I'm still sick from like a week ago, and I have like phlegm in the back of my fucking throat. Like, it's stuck back there. A bunch of gunk and goop and sludge is up in my sinuses, so I sound really weird. And my words are just getting jumbled. It doesn't matter. Let's move on to the cons, shall we? The bad stuff. I love complaining. I feel like I just have a lot of really small, petty things to talk about, and we're gonna talk about every single one of them. Sometimes the game will like tell you to turn around, you're going the wrong way, blah blah blah, when the only reason you're turning around is because you're fighting enemies, and you have to turn around or you'll get absolutely obliterated. I feel like that's dumb. I think the whole idea of like, telling me where I'm going, especially if it's like the first hour or two of my playthrough, I'm not gonna get lost. I'm not Zoro. I am Zoro from One Piece. I get lost in games so easily, but look, they're trying to like hold my hand and be like, hey, you're going the wrong way. Shut up. I'm just shooting this fucking ghost-looking thing in the face so I can move on, all right? Like, I know that I'm going the wrong way, but I have no choice. Stop telling me that I'm going the wrong way when I move 1 inch off of the path. It's one thing if I'm like really far out in the wrong way, but it's like you take 1 step in the wrong way. Sometimes the game has told me, go the other way, and I'm like, dude, like, give me a break. So there's a talisman mechanic that you can add. I never use it because I just don't like it, I guess. I don't know. I'm very happy with just using the normal attacks. The talisman, they didn't really explain how to toggle away from it. They just explained how to use it, like how to equip it. So there was like a few times early in my playthrough where I equipped the talismans by accident, or because I had to, and then I didn't know how to switch back, and I got killed because of it, because I didn't know how to switch back to my normal attacks. I don't know, they just could have been more clear in explaining, like, how to do that. Again, kind of a small thing. Just tell me, like, what key to press to go back out of the talismans into my normal attacks. I mean, it's not that hard to just tell me that, but I don't think they did. Maybe they did and I didn't notice, I don't know. Something I didn't like about the cutscenes was that it kind of froze you in place while the cutscene was happening. You could look around, but you couldn't really move, and that kind of pisses me off. Maybe I'm just very, like, ADHD when it comes to games. I just want to move around and look at everything. The game kind of puts you in one place and you can only look around and your view is limited. I just want to walk around when NPCs are talking to me because I can't sit still in game or in real life. I guess that's just how I am. I thought it would have been nice if they had just let me move around, but it felt very restrictive to be stuck there for a cutscene where I'm just frozen in the place. I mean, I guess it makes sense for like full-on animated cutscenes where it's like it literally cuts out of the game into like an actual like scene. But if it's like a random ass side quest or something, I feel like I don't need to be frozen in place in front of that ghost or whoever I'm talking to. I just need to like, I want to move, man. I want to move around. Again, very small and insignificant thing, but I thought I'd mention it. Editing Toasty here. I just have a quick side note that ties to this. I think that my problem with this in Ghostwire Tokyo in particular is the fact that you can't skip through the cutscenes early, as far as I can tell. Like in other games, like maybe Genshin Impact, for example, you pretty much control how long the cutscene is in this kind of situation that I'm talking about, because you can just click through the text boxes really quickly without like letting it play out normally, automatically. You can manually like click through it really fast, but in Ghostwire Tokyo, it freezes you there, and then you have to like listen to the NPC talk through the entire sentence, and as we all know, sometimes that can be really slow. Like the voice acting will be like very slow paced. I don't know, it just doesn't let you skip through the cutscenes that easily, and that makes it annoying, I think, is the fact that you can't like read ahead and just kind of skip through it early. You have to listen to the NPC the whole time. And I think that's what makes it annoying compared to other games where you can just click through the cutscene really fast if you don't want to deal with it. Back to present Toasty. Yeah. As far as navigation goes, I will give them that the map was relatively easy to read, and I'll give them that. I did have a bit of trouble navigating in certain places, but honestly, I wouldn't count this as a real con, honestly, because compared to some other games I've played, navigation wasn't that bad at all, and they did a good job with like the map, at least, and how to read the map. That was alright. That was pretty solid. I still found a way to struggle to navigate and get lost all the time, but at the very least, I think the map itself and all that was alright, and it was definitely helpful. So navigation wasn't, like, terrible, but I still found a way to find it difficult. There's this one enemy, I don't know if you'll see it in this recording, but it's like the spinny red one. That enemy sucks. I just hate that thing. It's so overpowered. I don't even want to complain about this. I feel like sometimes in these videos, I just complain about enemies that I didn't like the badass constructor in Borderlands 2. This is just another one of those. It's like a really tough enemy that I feel like is way too overpowered, and I just don't like it, but honestly, I'm not going to dwell on it too much because, honestly, whatever. You know, it doesn't matter. It's a little overpowered, but it's not a big deal. There was this side quest where there was parkour you had to do, like in a forest, in order to keep finding a spirit you were playing hide and seek with. And I think that was annoying because the game's mechanics, like for movement, aren't exactly ideal for parkour. I mean, they're fine for parkour, but I found them to be a little, like, it wasn't very smooth. I think that the mechanics for, like, moving around felt a little stiff, which isn't really a problem once you get used to it, but if you're trying to do parkour, I feel like you don't want stiff mechanics, and I found it really hard to, like, time jumps and shit, and I kept falling off of, like, stuff that I thought I should be able to stand on, and it was, like, really annoying to do the parkour. It was fine, it was just kind of annoying, you know, the way the parkour was. This is something that a lot of people have talked about, and I've kind of somewhat agreed with, is that a lot of the items you pick up feel pointless to pick up. It's like that fucking meme from Gravity Falls, where Dipper's like, wow, this is worthless. That's kind of what it is with, like, half of the items in this game, because, like, you just can't do anything with them, they just show up in a database. I guess that happens in a lot of games where they'll just pick up items and they're useless, but I feel like it'd be nice if, like, picking up all those collectible items and stuff had, like, an incentive of some kind, like some sort of even small boost, something to make it worth it. But I feel it's kind of annoying when you pick up that many items that don't do anything at all. You kind of hope for them to be of some use to you, but most of them are just items that are cool to look at for a second and then forget about, and that's kind of annoying. This is something I wouldn't consider a con, but some people might, so I wanted to touch on it. A lot of people who left negative reviews on this game mentioned that the combat isn't good, or it isn't to their liking, or isn't interesting, and I think that it's not the kind of game you should even play for the combat, just because the combat is not, it's very basic combat. It's not anything revolutionary. It's cool, but, like, you know, when you play for like 20, 30 hours, the combat gets fairly monotonous, and you kind of just, you're not really playing the game for the combat, you're playing it for the other stuff. So if you're someone who heavily prioritizes combat in a game, like you want a combat game, you want really good combat, this might not be for you because it's not a revolutionary combat, but I think it's sufficient. I think it's just fine combat. It's not any better than it needs to be. It's not any worse than it needs to be. It's just combat. If you're someone who's like really like the combat's super important to you, then it might not be as enjoyable for you. But for me, the combat doesn't really matter as much. I don't really care as much about it, so for me, it didn't matter. So yeah, overall, it was a really fun game. I think it was pretty fun. It had its issues, I guess, but overall, it was a nice, fun, like 30, 40-hour playthrough, or however long I spent. It was a good game to play. I definitely liked it. It was pretty fun, and yeah, I would definitely recommend it, especially for the graphics. I think the graphics are so fucking sick. If I had to rate it, I would probably give it like a 78%. I think that's fair. Because there were some things I didn't like, but there were a lot of things I did. I think that's totally fair. So yeah, as far as is this game underrated, I think, honestly, not really. I think it's a little underrated, but not that underrated. I think, like, it's a good hidden gem, I guess, just because people don't talk about the game, but it's actually pretty solid. But honestly, it's not the kind of game that should be, like, on the top of everyone's minds, because it isn't, like, the best game in the world. It's just, like, a good middle-of-the-road, fun playthrough that you're probably not going to think about that much after you play it. It's not the kind of game that you're going to want to keep going back to over and over again. It's just a good game to play through for a while and then move on from and never turn back. But it was really fun, and it was definitely enjoyable for the time that I played it. But by the time I was done with my playthrough, I was like, yeah, I'm done. I don't really feel like playing any further. My tummy is full. That was a good meal, but I'm ready to move on and go do something else, you know? For what it was a good playthrough, but I don't feel any desire to go back to that game. So no, I wouldn't say it's just a little underrated, but not by much. Well, yeah, that's Toasty's 2 cents. Like, subscribe, and keep vibing.